A horse is a vain hope for deliverance. Despite all its great strength, it cannot save. But the eyes of the Lord are on those who fear him, on those whose hope is in his unfailing love, to deliver them from death and keep them alive in famine. We wait in hope for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. In him our hearts rejoice, for we trust in his holy name. May your unfailing love rest upon us, O Lord, even as we put our hope in you. May we be blessed by the hearing of God's word today. To be honest, it feels like even more to me, but apparently the average number of decisions that a human being makes on a daily basis is about 35,000. I was saying that sounds low to me, but maybe that's because I'm a mom of little kids right now. I think I think I do that by about lunchtime. But we make decisions both big and small, right? From the moment our eyes open in the morning, it's to snooze or not to snooze. We have the choice, right? Oh, it feels pretty comfy in this bed. Maybe we could just roll over. Come on, mom, 5 more minutes. That's all I need. And then it just keeps going from there, right? And there are some people who have really decided to make this, to kind of hack this and make it more efficient, right? So to do the same thing every single day in order to cut down on the total number of decisions that they have to make on any given day so that they can be fresher and sharper for the big decisions that they have to make. For example, Steve Jobs, who is the founder of Apple, he famously wore the black turtleneck every single day because having to decide what to wear was a waste of energy. So he just wore the same thing every single day, and then that kept him fresh to invent things like the iPhone and change all of our lives. So if you see me start showing up in the same dress every Sunday, just know, I'm just hacking my lifestyle, okay? It's just because I have to put my attention somewhere else. And I know that I've been so exhausted by the number of choices that I've had to make at times that, I end up going out to dinner and I say, like, you know what? Just pick for me. I really don't care. Someone else make that decision. I'm here to relax. Relaxing to me means no decisions. So I really don't care. Just bring it to me. The Old Testament uses this language of choosing as well. So as many decisions as we have to make, as much as we have to say, I'm going to choose to go this way or that way, I'm going to choose to do this thing or wear a black turtleneck, whatever it may be, the Old Testament is also using this language of choosing. And it uses this language to describe God's relationship with his chosen nation, the nation that God chose, Israel, to be the people who reflect his glory to the world. The people who he chose out of everyone on earth to be the ones to reveal himself to in a special way so that God's name would be made known and made great among all the nations. Deuteronomy 7 says, "For you, Israel, are a people holy to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be his people, his treasured possession." God chose the nation Israel. Okay, but we need to take off, I know we're not all wearing glasses, but we need to take off our 21st century glasses that look at the nation as the post-war nation state, right, where we have Canada and Switzerland and Germany and Iraq. We have all these different nations, right? We're not talking about geopolitical entities. You know, you're going to have to bring your dictionary with you today, okay? I woke up ready. We're not talking about the nation state. We're talking about God's chosen people, a tribe, right? So we're taking off our 21st century lenses that make us think of a nation as, like, say, for example, the United States of America. That's not what we're talking about here. And we're shifting over here and we're putting on our lenses of an ancient monotheistic society, an ancient group of people that God said, I will deliver you, I will heal you. They were the underdogs, okay? And God said, you really can't do much for yourself. And so I'm going to use you to be the ones that I illustrate my power, my might, my forgiveness, my strength to. Because it's through choosing a bunch of nobodies that God is going to show who he is. And there are some scholars who think that this passage, this psalm, might have actually even been written after the exile, right? Which is when the Israelites really messed up. Because for God to choose Israel meant that they entered into a covenant, an agreement with one another. For God to choose Israel, Israel said, we will also choose you back. And what that means is that we will follow the law that you have given to us. We will follow the law that says, that describes what it means and what it looks like for us to be a nation living up to being the ones who are called by God, being the ones who are chosen by God, to treat the stranger with dignity, to love those and welcome amongst us people who weren't born here, to believe and to call on the name of God, of Yahweh, as the sovereign God, and to not follow any other gods. While in the exile, Israel failed to live up to their side of the bargain. They called on the name of other gods. They did not treat people with dignity and respect. They did not err on the side of mercy for others. And what happened? God allowed his protection over the nation of Israel to fall. And they were overcome by an idolatrous nation, one whom God had not chosen. And they were carried into exile and brought out of the land that God had given to them. So it's possible that these people are in a reflective period, right? In a post-exile period where they understand what it means to be the ones who are chosen by God. And they understand what happens when they are not living up to their side of the bargain, when they are not fulfilling their part of the covenant that they made, that God made with them. You know, we all like to think that being prepared is the most responsible thing that we could do, right? There's sort of this psychological phenomenon that happens where when something bad happens to another person, you know, you kind of want to find out everything that happened and kind of try to find the crack in the armor that maybe they put around themselves. Well, oh, okay, you got laid off. I really don't want to get laid off. So I'm going to try to understand everything that you did to maybe think why maybe it was something that you did wrong. so that I can try to avoid that outcome. Okay, you had someone break into your house and steal your stuff. Well, you probably didn't have enough security security measures in place, right? That would never happen to me because I'm way too careful to let something bad like that happen. It must have been a lapse in your responsibility. Oh, you only locked 2 locks on your door? Okay, well, you got to get enough cameras and you got to make sure that they're streamed to the internet so that you can check it from anytime, any place. We see how the quest for safety, the quest for protection and preservation can end up becoming a prison of our own creation. But we could convince ourselves that if we just make the right choices, 35,000 a day, even if you get 50-50 of them right, what percentage of choices do you need to make right to ensure that nothing bad could ever happen to you? To ensure that you are guaranteed the outcome that you want to see happen to yourself in this life? What are the odds that are good enough for you in 35,000 decisions a day? And again, I'm saying, I feel like that's on the low end. 80-20? Math whiz, what's 20% of 35,000? Any math whizzes out there? Too many. Too many, right? How many choices can we make to ensure that we will be okay? This is a psalm for maybe people like us, people who think that if we just make the right decisions, if we're responsible enough, that we could save ourselves. But no king is saved by the size of his army. No warrior can escape just by their sheer strength. A horse is a vain hope for deliverance. Despite all its great strength, it cannot save. The biggest bank account is still subject to being empty one day. The greatest security system in the world can fail. What choice do we have in the matter? Well, this psalm tells us the eyes of the Lord are on those who fear him, right? Some of us may have heard this before, but this idea of fearing God, it's not about being afraid of God. It's not about being afraid of God's punishment or that God is going to try to teach us a lesson or something like that. Those who fear God are the ones who understand that you could make all the right decisions in this world. And if you didn't keep your eyes on God, you are not identifying his sovereignty in your life. The only true protection, the only true care that we can really count on is to keep our eyes on God. Those who fear him, those who understand the pecking order in this universe, on those whose hope is in his unfailing love to deliver them from death and keep them alive in famine. You all know, I've told you this before, I've mentioned this before, that during COVID, like 2020, I know COVID is still an ongoing thing, but in 2020 specifically, I had a 2-year-old, I was pregnant with Ruby, and I went a little, woohoo, just like there's nothing on the shelves, There's no toilet paper. I mean, ever since then, a lot of people kind of did this, but a lot of people got really into homesteading, right? So I've got my chickens, I've got my rabbits. It's stuck a little bit, okay? I went full Laura Ingalls Wilder because you start to think, well, if I had to take care of myself, could I? And there comes a moment where we come to the end of ourselves and you go, oh, come on. Like, I can't forge the metal that, like, I can't create all of this by myself. I can't do the work of a whole community just myself. And the fear of asking myself and that pressure of, like, will I be okay? Could I take care of my family? It like drove me a little nutty. But if you follow the thread, you get to the point where there's a peace in, no, I really couldn't. And so, what do we do? What do we choose when there's no choice we could make that could save us from a bad world event or a bad situation or an unlucky day? We have to wait and hope for the Lord because He is our help and our shield. And even in the midst of understanding, like trying to be the most responsible version of yourself that you could be, because I've even known, like, my youth pastor when I was a kid, his church was like very Pentecostal, and so they believed that the world was going to end. His church, that's what they taught, was that the world was going to end, and so they didn't keep any savings. They went into a ton of debt because they thought the world was going to end and they were never going to have to pay it back. And that was like the Christian teaching that they received. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying shirk any responsibilities that we have, okay? So let's just be clear about that. We can make the best decision that we can. But we have to remind ourselves and not make ourselves king of our own life, God of our own little universe. The antidote to this kind of anxiety and this kind of fear and the kind of impulse of, how do I make the right decision? How do I know I'm making the right decision? 35,000 decisions in a day. It's too many for any one person to have to get them all right. We wait in hope for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. In Him our hearts rejoice, for we trust in His holy name. May your unfailing love rest upon us, O Lord, even as we put our hope in you. Are there moments where it seems like trusting in God is the most irresponsible thing that you could do? I think so. Because sometimes it seems like God can call us from the most responsible decision of providing for ourselves. And responsible, you can fill in the blank of whatever word it is that might make sense to you. And when God calls us to jump, when He promises to us that He will be our provider, what do? You say, God, that's irresponsible? Or do you say, I will trust in your unfailing love. I will put my hope in you, that you will say what you said, you will do what you said you would do. I thought that this was interesting, that this passage was speaking to the nation. And so I just thought it was important to clarify the significance of that particular wording, right? Because it says that God has, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And so, what does it mean to be a chosen nation? What does it mean to be a nation chosen by God? In the United States right now, so my neighbor is French. She's from France. And we were talking, she was like, America is so religious. I was like, I mean, we're in New Hampshire. It's like the least church state. It's one of the least church states in the entire country. I was like, and they're moving to Nashville. I was like, well, buckle up, lady, because you have no idea. But they're from France, and which is a very secular society. And sometimes um, there has been a tendency in the United States to say that, because we have been so blessed as a nation, we, in so many ways, we live like just the wealthiest life that we could. We've been secure. We have so many blessings that we experience, right? We'd be tempted to think that when the Bible talks about a chosen nation, well, is he talking about America? Could this poem from thousands of years ago also be talking about us? And we just have to remember, right, that we took off those lenses. We took off the lenses that said, this is a 21st century statement about what a chosen nation means. And we put on the lenses of the Old Testament. But if we were to, there's a warning here too, even for the nation of Israel, which is that you can either focus on God's choice, that God chose the nation of Israel, or you can focus on nation. And I think that if we focus too much on the wording of nation as a government body, to say that God chose a nation state to be the most blessed out of the whole world, we're missing here what this scripture could say to us. Because really what this passage is saying is not that God chooses a nation to bless above all others, the people that he chooses for his inheritance. It's talking about how God could use Israel to say that even the nation, even the group of people, even the little brother with the least strength, the smallest army, no king for a long time, could be the one who is chosen to reflect God's goodness to the world. Because there is no army, there is no amount of horses, there is no amount of weaponry, there's nothing that you can do to make yourself more safe than when God chooses you. And when God chooses you to be the one who experiences his inheritance of love and blessing and goodness and protection. So as we go from here, let us be reminded of that. For the rest of the day, let's see, you've probably already made 10,000 decisions. It's only almost 11 o'clock. You made it to church on time. Way to go. You're doing great. You made a lot of decisions to get you to that point. How many are you going to have left today? And then tomorrow it starts all over again. Should I cut down on coffee today? I've really been told I should start limiting my caffeine. Should I go to tea? Big decisions await us all. They can be disguised as small ones. But even the biggest decisions that we face about how we spend our money, how we share our time, who we spend it with, what we spend our life doing, we can find wisdom and solace in the fact that when we're focusing on God, when we're putting our hope on God, when we're waiting upon the Lord, we know that we live in the center of the work that he is doing, and that he is the one who delivers us from the challenges that we face in this life. And you don't have to depend on yourself. For some of us, that's a hard habit to break. For the rest of us, it should be a welcome breath of fresh air that God is the one who is sovereign, who sees us working our way and trying to do our best, and we can make him the God of our life, and you don't have to be. Let us respond now as we sing our closing hymn, hymn number 124, All